Friends or foes? The interaction of tarot with psychology in using your character strengths. You're listening to episode 3 of On My Way, the mini show sharing with you my happiness insights. We are on our way to the return of happy mind travel. Hey folks, I'm your host Pauline. So happy that you joined me today. You may have noticed that we have not returned to the regular show Happy Mind Travel yet, as I have planned, and that's because I find it really interesting to share with you some of the happiness mindsets and insights in this mini show On My Way. I think sometimes when we focus too much on the hands-on exercise and practices, it's good to step back for a little while to look at the big picture instead, so you know the direction before you go for anything. As Gandhi said, speed is irrelevant if you're going in the wrong direction. I want some clarity for this show so that we can go on this happiness journey together with meaning and direction. We see lots of people going for things that they believed would make them happy, but it didn't work out at the end, and sometimes those things backfired even. So you could see this mini show as a training series for your mind, the reflective series to prepare your mind for seeking happiness. Okay, so we got our vision up front. Now let's get started. Today, I want to explore with you 2 questions. Is tarot contradictory to psychology? Or frame it this way, are spiritual stuff irrelevant to scientific evidence? And the second thing is how all these relates to applying our character strengths into our daily lives. So first off, is tarot, the spiritual stuff, irrelevant or even contradictory to scientific evidence, scientific stuff like psychology? We can see that it doesn't seem to be that way, because even in the scientific field, not talking about psychology, just the scientific field, we have a new field called quantum physics. Actually, it's not so new now. It's been, I believe, several decades. Some researchers have been going on research in quantum physics that explains that they developed some theories to explain supernatural stuff, things that we can't explain by traditional science. And I see that this question is really important because while I was working in rehab centers, I observed that a lot of people don't even know what does it mean to be spiritual, or what does it mean to involve in spiritual practice. What is spiritual? What is spiritual practice? They don't even have a single clue about that. And on the other side, hardcore scientific people will be super skeptical about spirituality, things that they can't explain by mere science, by pure science, or even they will question religion, the existing of religious figures. And sometimes we call those people skeptics or atheists. So we can't have this battle between spiritual versus scientific. But is it really? So let me give you some of those backgrounds of tarot and psychology. Tarot, as I have talked about in previous episodes, let me see, 13 to 16, how you could apply tarot year cards in your own life, in your planning, year lessons that you have to pay attention to. So tarot is a philosophical system with very rich religious background. As you can see, there are a lot of religious symbols and concepts in each and every card. And it's all about life's cycle, about human nature and wisdom. And on the other hand, psychology, we could trace the origin back to the era of the Greeks. For example, classic figures like Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, talking about the mind, the human mind, and virtues, in a nutshell, human nature. And actually, the word psyche in psychology means the human soul, mind, or spirit. And this word psyche is actually from a Greek mythological character called Psyche in the story of Cupid and Psyche. And just for your information, Psyche is Cupid's lover, and Cupid, he's a super handsome god, and he asks Psyche not to look at his face, not to look at him at night when they're sleeping. But Psyche is really curious about that, so one night she just sneak into Cupid's bedroom, and then she saw his face. And Cupid is so devastated because it means that a trust between Cupid and Psyche is no longer there. Psyche didn't trust Cupid, and she doesn't listen to him not to go into his bedroom and see his face. It's just a short version of the story. In a way, a lot of positive psychology's concepts are actually rooted from religion, philosophy. For example, one of the biggest movement in positive psychology is introducing character strengths and developing the virtues and action inventory, in short VAA, which we'll also talk about in this episode. Aristotle, Socrates talked a lot about virtues and how a virtue could lead us to happiness. So Greek figures like Aristotle believed that if we're virtuous, then happiness is just a byproduct. Virtues like gratitude, courage, forgiveness, compassion would ultimately lead us to lasting happiness. So you see, there are a lot of similarities among these disciplines, among religious studies, spiritual studies, and psychological science. Now let's talk about what actually are character strengths before we go to the application part, how to apply tarot and psychology together in our daily lives and utilizing those character strengths. So character strengths has another term called signature strengths. Is a system actually developed by Martin Seligman, the psychologist and past president of American Psychological Association. He is actually the pioneer in positive psychology, in pushing the positive psychology out into the public and to address that issue of too much research is built upon the negative psychology, so-called. Now, under this character strengths system, developed by Martin E.P. Seligman, there are in total 6 virtues and 24 strengths. And under each virtue category, there are several signature strengths or character strengths. And the 6 virtues are wisdom, justice, humanity, temperance, transcendence, and courage. Surprisingly, we also have these corresponding cards that speak to all those virtues. So let me give you some examples. First of all, the big idea, character strengths. It means identifying and using your character strengths would lead to your happiness. And we have a corresponding tarot card for this. If you don't know any tarot knowledge, that's fine, because it's just an introduction of how tarot could be weaved into the psychological science of happiness. And if you want to learn more, you can listen to episode 13 to 16 to know more about the tarot cards describing our life cycles. So back to this episode, we are talking about the big idea of character strengths, and we have the number 1 card, the Magician. As remember, the Magician, it's about utilizing all 4 abilities, utilizing all 4 elements of the universe, and being confident to show your abilities to manifest your creation in your head. So it's not just identifying your character strengths, but also using those strengths to create your own reality. And that's matching the big idea of character strengths by Martin E.P. Seligman. Now, there are 6 virtues. The first virtue is wisdom, and wisdom simply means the openness to accept new ideas and change your own thoughts, the curiosity to learn, the passion to learn, and having a big perspective, a clear picture of what's going on in the overall situation. And we also have the corresponding card in tarot, which is the number 9 card, the Hermit, which basically describes a reflective and introspective journey that a person has to go on in order to gain the wisdom of life. Sometimes you need to slow down. You need to look into yourselves, not so much on the reality, on the external reality, to look into yourself and find your true essence, to find your true purpose in life. And that's ultimately the wisdom. Now, we also have the virtue of justice. So justice in psychology and character strengths, it means leadership, showing your leadership, how to make it a cohesive place for your subordinates or people who are working for you, fairness, treating everyone fairly, and also loyalty. And in tarot, we actually have a card that has the same name of character strengths, and that is card number 11, Justice. It's just the same. It's about a balanced view of life and how you treat others as though you're treating yourself. We also have the virtue of humanity and character strengths, which means compassion, kindness, and being humane to the environment around you and especially to the people connected with you. So in tarot, we have a card called card number 6, the Lovers, and it's all about relationship. It's all about the humanity, the connection you hold with others, the love and compassion you have for others. Okay, so we've now come to virtue number 4, Temperance. And in tarot, we also have a card that just speaks to it. It's number 14, also called Temperance. So in character strengths, temperance simply means moderation, being moderate in all areas of your life. Not to go to full extreme, you have to self-regulate yourself, and you need to be moderate, to be humble, to know your weaknesses and not brag about your strengths, and also forgiveness, not to hold grudge against others or hate somebody else. So when you're going on the process of forgiveness, in psychology, it means that you kind of make yourself less angry against the person who made transgressions to you, and you start to understand their viewpoint and the whole situation, the whole picture, to moderate yourself emotionally and mentally. And in tarot, we also have this Temperance card, which simply means moderation as well. But in the spiritual world of tarot, temperance also has a meaning of mixing the reality, the external world, with your spiritual self. So you don't just live in your spiritual world and neglect all the external environment, but you also learn how to utilize your spiritual knowledge or your spiritual practice and apply that into your daily life, into your everyday connections with other people. And this is temperance. And also means patience as well, because in the process of mixing and of moderating, you need to give it time for it to process. The next virtue mentioned in character strengths is transcendence. And in psychology, in character strengths, Martin Seligman describes transcendence as having several character strengths like gratitude, spirituality, hope, appreciation of beauty and excellence, and humor. So in the tarot world, we also have some cards. And it's not only one card, because transcendence, tarot is a spiritual tool, so it has a lot more cards in spirituality than the other themes for the concept and the practice of transcendence, which is card number 2, the High Priestess, card number 12, the Hanged Man, and card number 13, Death. So card number 2 is depicting a high priestess that it's full of knowledge of spiritual wisdom. So that's just the spirituality theme in character strengths. You see things beyond yourself. You see things even beyond the universe. That's the essence of card number 2, the High Priestess. We also have card number 12, the Hanged Man, which means you slow down a bit and stay still and see the same situation or difficult situations in a different angle than you usually are, and you gain enlightenment from the sufferings. So again, seeing the meaning in life and the purpose of happenings in your life. And the other relevant card, it's number 13, Death, which many people will be scared when they see this card in tarot, when they draw this card, but death simply means the end of something that's not useful to you anymore, that's not connected with you anymore. You're not aligned with the purpose of a situation or of a particular concept anymore, of thoughts anymore. With that in effect, you'll find a new meaning, you find a new pattern, a new cycle of life of yours. So death, this card is truly a positive thing. You see beyond the situation happening now. Or maybe speaking in terms of transcendence in psychology, it means being grateful to situations that might have hurt you, may have made you feel devastated. A concept of grateful processing by psychologist Philip Watkins in order to digest difficult situations and emotional chaos generated by that situation and to make it less intrusive. to make the memory or the actual situation less intrusive to you by gratefully processing the situation. So that's the essence of transcendence in character strengths and the death card in tarot. Now, the last virtue mentioned in character strengths is courage. And courage, according to Martin Seligman, means persistence, bravery, vitality, and integrity, which simply means authenticity or honesty, to be true to yourself. It takes a lot of courage, doesn't it? Now, the corresponding card, it's number... We actually have 2 cards. Card number 8, Strength. And in this card, there is a woman taming a lion, and it doesn't mean that you have to be a Hercules in this situation. It's not about the external strength. It's not about the outer strength. It's about the inner strength that you hold within yourself to continue your journey, to continue the battle you have with yourself or with the environment, with the situation. You go on despite there are a lot of difficulties. So this is persistence in the realm of courage and character strengths. We also have another card called the Fool, which is number 0. It's number 0 because it's start from scratch. All of our journey starts from scratch. It starts from 0. So it's the Fool. And in tarot, the Fool is the most important card because it's the beginning of the journey. If you don't step out your comfort zone and take a risk to start something new and meaningful, then the journey won't unfold itself magically. You need to take those little steps and take that first step in order to start your journey, to start something that might be miraculous to your life. And that corresponds to the idea of bravery. When you start something new, you've got to have the ability to do what needs to be done despite fear. So bravery, it's not about you don't have any fear in your heart, but it's to start the journey and do what you need to do despite all of those fears in your heart. And also it corresponds to the concept of vitality. It takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of energy to go on, the motivation to take risks, to approach life tasks and activities with enthusiasm. So surprisingly, we have all these corresponding themes happening between the tarot world and the psychological science, especially the character strengths realm in positive psychology. Having said that, how do we apply this knowledge from tarot and positive psychology together in our daily lives? How does that relate to our happiness? So psychologist Martin E.P. Seligman actually has done a research, and that research tells us that when people could identify their own character strengths, that's not enough. Only identifying your strengths, not enough. Only knowing your strength is not adequate. The key here is to use those strengths every day. And in the research, it tells us that it's not using the same strengths repetitively. Rather, people will feel happier when they utilize their strengths in new and different ways every day. So it's not repeating a strength every single day. It's not like a routine that you brush your teeth, that you take a bath every day. It's not like that. It's using your strengths in new and different ways every single day. And if you want to check your own signature strengths or so-called character strengths, I will link to that on our Facebook page in this episode. But when you hear about the findings of this research, you might spot a potential issue here, and that is we might not know how to use our strengths in new and different ways every single day. We need to think of a new way to utilize our strengths. And it could be very vague even when you got some instructions or advice about those virtues or character strengths. For example, if your character strength is courage, then under the category of the virtue of courage, you have bravery, persistence, integrity, or authenticity, vitality, or zest. It could be very vague even if I tell you, you gotta be brave today. So what does it mean to be brave? What does it mean to be persistent? How can I express that in my daily lives? You can think of one way or 10 ways, but if every single day you need to perform that virtue in new and different ways, then it could be an overwhelming task. And there are 3 reasons why we think that it could be an even harder task than identifying our own strengths. First of all, these virtues, these virtuous traits, are less exposed to us nowadays, except when we heard those virtues we should have in childhood storybooks. Number two, we are less trained to bring out some of those virtues due to socialization and societal rules. For example, in our modern day lives, we want quick results. Everything is quick, hustle. So persistence might not even come into place because we leave too quickly. When the outcome didn't come shortly after we made our effort, we think it doesn't work. It's a failure, and then we abandon that. But that's not our fault. That could be the whole pressure of the society and a socialization process going on when we grow up. And the third reason is that our brain got rusty. Our brains get rusty, so to speak, as we are so well trained to do mundane tasks every day instead of using our brain creatively. Of course, except if you are advertising strategies or you're working in the media field, then you might try to use different ways to attract customers creatively or express your creativity in the actual advertisement. So, we know the reasons how tarot could help us in this creative process in utilizing our character strengths. First, we need to know that tarot is the source of inspiration and surprise factors in life. Psychological science could tell us what is effective, but in order to bring out those outcomes, sometimes we need spirituality and motivational tools. So, the first step, of course, here is to identify and know your signature strengths, and then match them with specific tarot cards. You can check your signature strengths using the link I have on our Facebook page, and then match those signature strengths with specific tarot cards. You don't need to follow my thoughts on matching up those tarot cards with the character strengths. For some cards, it might mean different to you personally. So the second step is to pull out those cards every other day from the deck up front, so you have a new compilation of cards related to your signature strengths, and draw one card from that new deck every morning as one of your morning routines. And in this process, I don't want you to focus on one signature strengths per day, because it could be overwhelming. I suggest you allocate 2 dates to practice your specific signature strengths. So in day 1, of course, after you pull out the cards and draw the card from the compilation of deck, day 1, learn about the story of the card. You can search it online, or you can listen to the previous episodes of this podcast. Then, think of one paragon of virtue related to that card. Read about that person's story, see how they express, how they utilize their character strengths in their daily lives. So, for example, if your character strength is kindness or compassion, you learn about the card about the lovers, and then you think of one paragon of virtue, for example, Mother Teresa, how she expressed and utilized her character strengths in her life. So day 1 is just about learning. And of course, in this process, you're developing another character strength too, which is wisdom. Because wisdom, it's all about openness to accept new ideas and the curiosity to learn. And day 2, I want you to think of one way, at least one way, to express the virtue of the card. It could be external. You can express it explicitly or implicitly, just in your mind. For example, if you have the character strengths of openness to accept new ideas and change your old thought paradigms, you need not express it. You can just implicitly change your thoughts in your mind, or you could present your new ideas explicitly to others. Then, this is the important step. I want you to write that down. Write about how you express or utilize your character strengths at the end of the day on your journal. So soon, you will build up your own database, your character strengths, and how to utilize them with your own style. You need not comply with others to utilize your character strengths in the same way as they have. The important step here is to build your own style of expressing your character strengths. Now, performing a virtue every day in new and different ways could be quite hard, so I suggest doing it every other day, or you could do it less frequently, I think, and allocate at least 2 days for each virtue you want to develop even further. Or you could just do 2 virtues development alternately every week. Because the last thing you want to do is to overwhelm yourself when the intended goal is to make yourself happy and efficacious by utilizing your strengths. So now that you know the method of how to use tarot cards and character strengths in developing your virtues, go build your own profile of character strengths and get ready to shine. Now the link to the character strengths questionnaire is on our show's Facebook page at facebook.com/happymindtravel. If you like the content there, please like our page to show your support, and this will also let me know if you want more of these. So I gotta go now, and I will see you next time on my way to the Happiness World. If you're already seeing a medical advisor, counselor, or therapist, discuss this show with them. Always consult a professional when you think your situation needs one, and discuss your concerns with them. If you have any questions or feedback on this show, go ahead and email me at pauline@ourhappymindtravel.com. Happy Mind Travel is on a lot of platforms now, like iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Overcast. If you want to receive the newest episode every week instantly, then subscribe to this show or add that to your playlist. If you've done so, then like us on Facebook to share your support. And look for more insightful episodes, more useful resources at facebook.com/happymindtravel. I'm so looking forward to seeing you inside. Give yourself some time to rethink happiness before we travel to another topic next week. Until then, Happy Mind Travelers, take it one day at a time and enjoy to be happy. I love you all, and thanks for listening. Are you ready to take your happiness journey? With the Happiness Map, you can start making happy habits today. Visit ourhappymindtravel.com/guides. If you're committed to making your life happy and you want more tips and tools to build your happiness life blueprint, then this is for you. It's all in your hands to make positive changes to your life. Visit ourhappymindtravel.com/guides.